Pressure appears to be mounting on Pakistan to take action against those behind the deadly attacks in Mumbai last week. Yesterday, India formally demanded that Islamabad act, saying the elements from Pakistan were behind those attacks. U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice also urged Pakistan to cooperate and to follow evidence wherever it leads. Rice is due to head to India on Wednesday. Joining us now live from Washington, D.C. is Malou Innocent. She's a foreign policy expert at the Cato Institute. Malou, well, first of all, do you think Pakistan is going to cooperate with India here?
I think Pakistan will initially try and cooperate as much with New Delhi and Washington as possible. However, the problem behind many of these militant organizations that operate within Pakistan is that it's difficult to determine whether or not they're operating independent of the government of Islamabad, if these are rogue elements that are acting at the behest of Islamabad. And so this is what Washington and New Delhi must try and sift through, and understanding the sort of duplicitous relations that Pakistan and Washington have had, especially over the past year or so, especially with relations between Pakistan and Afghanistan, giving recent revelations that Islamabad is still supporting elements of the original Afghan Taliban. So going forward, it appears that Islamabad will be willing to assist in the investigation. However, there is also concern that possibly Pakistan might have double dealings on the side with these militant organizations. So it's yet to be seen, or yet to be seen what will happen.
Well, India and Pakistan both have had a very long and tense relationship, been trying to move forward at several points in their relationship there. Do you think that the current relationship can recover? I mean, they were trying to make inroads. Do you think it can recover from these latest attacks?
It doesn't look promising, honestly. There was relative calm in the bilateral relationship over the past couple years. I think that the most recent precedents, however, for the initiation of conflict occurred in December 2001, after elements of Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence Agency allegedly were behind another attack on the Indian Parliament in New Delhi, and there were both countries amassed troops along their international border for over a year. After that, tensions subsided, and the Bush administration instituted a vigorous regional diplomacy. And so again, tensions went to the wayside. Now again, given the increased intentions now, there is a potential for conflict. It remains to be seen what will happen, given the fact that for many Indian policymakers, they understand that war is not the best option, given that war would derail its rapid economic rise. It could, of course, undermine foreign investment by, of course, making foreign investors a little more skeptical of India's short-term stability. So, again, a war could be in the offing, but I'm sure that Indian officials understand that war is not the best option for them right now.
Why is U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice heading to India?
Again, this is just an attempt on their part, similar to several years ago, to almost 7 or 8 years ago. Again, trying to attempt to mitigate the potential for a spiraling conflict. India and Pakistan have been in 3 full-scale wars during the Cold War, and ever since they've had minor border skirmishes along each of their controlled parts of Kashmir. And so both Condoleezza Rice and President Bush want to again try and assuage Pakistan's concerns about India's growing hegemony in the region. India, of course, wants to strengthen its own security and economic prosperity within the region. And so for Condoleezza Rice as well, and for President Bush, they want to again try and decrease the possibility of conflict, not only for India's ongoing growth, but also if there happens to be a conflict between India and Pakistan, this will offer an excuse to Pakistani officials to move their security forces away from their western border along the border with Afghanistan and to its eastern border with India. This would, of course, relieve pressure on Al-Qaeda and the Taliban militants that are destabilizing Afghanistan. So if there is a war, if there is any sort of conflict, this will have a direct impact on U.S. involvement within Afghanistan.
Yeah, and that was my follow-up here, Malou. I mean, to what extent, then, is it very important for India and Pakistan not to escalate tensions too much so that the U.S. will continue to have pressure on these terrorist forces or in the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan?
Right, Maura. I think that's it's an excellent question. I think that the United States is doing whatever it can, again, to sort of stem the spiraling violence that's occurring in Afghanistan, and that requires Pakistan's undivided loyalty and assistance in this struggle. But again, given the history of the two countries, given the ethnic and religious tensions that have been boiling between Pakistan and India for 6 decades, if not several centuries, it is in America's critical interests, again, to try and mitigate the potential for any spiraling armed conflict in the near future.
Malou, thanks so much for joining us. Malou Innocent, foreign policy expert at the Cato Institute.